When the times abandon you, they won't even say hello to you. A shop that once supported 3 generations now loses money for 3 generations. The economy is sluggish. Consumption is sluggish. Offline physical consumption has seriously declined, and shops that rely on offline physical consumption have ushered in a wave of rent collapse. The plunge in shop rents is sweeping the country. Near the end of the year, a large number of leases are about to expire, and more landlords have found that tenants are starting to demand rent reductions. Landlords are in a dilemma. Lowering rents means not having enough to pay the monthly installments for the shops. If they don't lower rents, the shops may remain vacant, leading to greater losses. Lowering rents means death, and not lowering rents means worse death. This phenomenon has begun to spread across the country. 1. Rents of community basement shops have been cut in half. Before writing this article, I had just returned from a women's hair and beauty shop located downstairs in our community. The owner had recently relocated from a shop in the same community to another nearby. The owner explained that the monthly rent for her previous shop was 15,000 yuan. She tried to negotiate a lower price with the landlord, but the landlord refused. As a result, she moved directly to a neighboring shop that had just been vacated, where the monthly rent was only 8,000 yuan. This shop previously offered beauty services for women, making it a perfect fit for her hair and beauty business. She only needed minor renovations and a change of the signboard, without the need for full redecoration. She opened the shop immediately. The new location is also better than her previous one. The original rent for this shop was around 20,000 yuan. The former tenant had also tried to negotiate a rent reduction, but the landlord refused, leading the tenant to move out decisively. Initially, the landlord was confident, believing the shop would be rented quickly. However, it sat vacant for 2 months, with no interested tenants. During this period, the landlord not only lost rental income, but also had to cover property fees. Given the current economic situation and shrinking incomes, landlords still need to pay their monthly mortgages. Eventually, the landlord lowered the rent, and the hair and beauty shop owner seized the opportunity. I've observed that shops in our community are undergoing significant relocations. The tenant of shop number 1 moved to shop number 10, the tenant of shop number 3 moved to shop number 1, and the tenant of shop number 5 relocated to shop number 3. In the end, it became clear that the same business owners remain. They've simply switched shops. However, rents have been reduced by at least half. In the first half of this year, landlords were still confident, and tenants rarely dared to challenge them. The sudden closure of a beauty salon disrupted this balance. That beauty salon didn't relocate. It closed entirely due to poor business and insufficient income. The landlord struggled for nearly half a year, but couldn't find a new tenant. Finally, he relented, offering a 50% rent reduction, which successfully attracted the owner of a neighboring hair salon. As a result, shop rents in the area began to loosen, and interesting things happened. Tenants started negotiating with landlords. If they couldn't reach an agreement, they would immediately move to nearby vacant shops where rents were halved. An amazing scene occurred. Tenants began to defeat landlords, and landlords became the vulnerable group, trapped in a dilemma of whether to reduce rents or not. Landlords with vacant shops began competing to attract tenants, frantically undercutting each other, and rents were cut in half. Yes, that's right. The rents were cut in half. Tenants bargained not with 10% or 20% reductions, but with over 50% cuts by simply moving out. Now landlords feel like the sky has fallen. When they purchased these shops, they never imagined rents could be halved while monthly mortgage payments remained the same. It used to be that one shop supported 3 generations. Now it loses money for 3 generations. Community services are essential, and life support services are indispensable, so the demand for shops remains. Ground floor shops should be the last stronghold for businesses, but now even their rents have collapsed, signaling a more severe decline for other shops. 2. The rent of shopping malls plummeted by 90%. Among all shops, wholesale shopping malls were the first to collapse. Wansheng Plaza, the landmark building of Hanjing Street in Wuhan, is the largest clothing wholesale market in central China. 20 years ago, before e-commerce emerged, this was its most glorious time. At that time, the annual rent of a 120 square meter shop was as high as 550,000 yuan, while a 70 to 80 square meter shop could rent for 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. Although the prices were steep, Wansheng Plaza was the undisputed king of the clothing wholesale market. Due to its immense foot traffic and popularity, shops were in such high demand that even the most expensive ones were hard to secure. Shop owners in Wansheng Plaza thrived effortlessly. Within a few years, they could recoup the rental costs. However, with the rise of e-commerce, people shifted to online shopping, causing offline physical stores to decline. Clothing wholesale malls collapsed, and Wansheng Plaza faced its doomsday. With the closure of numerous clothing wholesalers, vacant shops increased, and rental prices continued to dive. The original annual rent of 200,000 to 300,000 yuan has now dropped to barely 20,000 to 30,000 yuan, a 90% plunge. Once bustling shops have now been repurposed as warehouses for e-commerce merchants. However, the property fees of Wansheng Plaza have not decreased, but instead increased. The shop owners had to form a property management committee to find ways to save themselves. Even more than a decade ago, the shop owners of Wansheng Plaza would not have imagined such a scenario. The phenomenon of rent plunging is not limited to Wuhan's Wansheng Plaza, but has also occurred at Guangzhou's Shangxiaju Pedestrian Street and Baima Clothing Wholesale Market, where rents have plummeted dramatically. More than a decade ago, Shangxiaju Pedestrian Street was a shopping paradise for Guangzhou citizens and tourists. Its wide variety of affordable clothes attracted massive crowds. At its peak, the annual rent for a small shop on Shangxiaju Pedestrian Street exceeded 1 million yuan. Today, e-commerce has left the street desolate. Tourists now visit Shangxiaju Pedestrian Street merely to check in, not to shop. Merchants have gone bankrupt, and many shops sit vacant. This phenomenon of shop vacancies and plummeting rents is not unique to Wuhan and Guangzhou. Across the country, shop rents have fallen. A research organization compared shop rent changes in major cities between 2021 and 2024. The data showed that, except for Suzhou, Nantong, and Wuxi, where rents rose, shop rents in other cities fell significantly. Among the 4 first-tier cities, Beijing saw a 10.3% drop, Shanghai 24.1%, Guangzhou 11.5%, and Shenzhen 16.2%. Zhengzhou recorded the steepest decline at 38.3%, followed by Chongqing. This data is shocking and leaves shop owners in despair. Notably, 2021 was still during the pandemic, when shop businesses were hindered by restrictions. Yet, even after the pandemic, rents have continued to fall, painting a grim picture. Third, Hong Kong shop rent collapse. The dilemma of plummeting shop rents is not only happening on the mainland, but also in Hong Kong, the former luxury shopping paradise. Take a shop on Russell Street in Causeway Bay, Hong Kong, as an example. In 2008, the shop was rented by Excellence at a monthly rent of 580,000 Hong Kong dollars. By 2012, the shop was rented by Swiss Longines Watches at a monthly rent of 2.3 million Hong Kong dollars, which was a sky-high price. 12 years later, Hong Kong's high-end luxury retail has plummeted, and Longines Watches can no longer support such high rents. As a result, this sky-high shop was rented by a mobile phone accessories store at a monthly rent of 130,000 Hong Kong dollars. From 2.3 million Hong Kong dollars per month to 130,000 Hong Kong dollars per month, an exaggerated drop of 94%, has also taken place in Hong Kong. The phenomenon of plummeting rents is only the tip of the iceberg in Causeway Bay. In fact, this situation has spread throughout Hong Kong. A street shop along Haifeng Road in Tsim Sha Tsui was rented by the second-hand brand store Milan Station at a monthly rent of 1.02 million in 2015. Now, The rent for this shop has dropped to 100,000 Hong Kong dollars. The rent plummet is only one aspect. The sluggish Hong Kong economy and the reduction of mainland tourists coming to Hong Kong for shopping have caused a large number of shops in Hong Kong to remain vacant. Hong Kong, once the king of the retail industry, where shops were hard to find and land was expensive, has now fallen into a situation where a large number of shops have closed down and rents have plummeted. It is truly sad. Epilogue. As the last stronghold of shops, the rent of community basements has collapsed this year. The phenomenon of rent changes and price reductions in the community downstairs from my home is just a microscopic manifestation of the broader collapse of shops. Looking across the country, whether it is wholesale properties such as Wuhan Wansheng Plaza and Guangzhou Baima Clothing Wholesale Market, or street shops such as Guangzhou Shangxiajiu, rents have dropped significantly compared to the years before the epidemic. In Hong Kong, famous for its retail industry, shops with sky-high rents have disappeared. Not only have rents plummeted, but there are also a large number of vacant shops. All these phenomena show that the era of shops has completely passed. Under the impact of e-commerce, economic downturn, consumption downgrades, and other factors, shops are dead. Shops are no longer a good investment. The payback period is lengthening. If they cannot be rented out, shops become a negative asset. Once, one shop supported 3 generations, but now 3 generations support one shop. When the times abandon you, they do not say hello. China's economy faces a number of challenges, including weak domestic demand, a property crisis, and external pressures. Analysts predict that Beijing may add more stimulus. Last week, the Central Economic Work Conference made it clear that expanding domestic demand would be the policy focus in 2025 and promised to implement a moderately loose monetary policy, the first time in 14 years that the tone has been relaxed. If Beijing is to maintain its 5% economic growth target for 2024, stabilizing the real estate industry is key. At its peak, China's real estate industry accounted for 25% of the total economy. On Monday, ratings agency Moody's raised its forecast for China's GDP growth in 2025 to 4.2%. Fei Duoli, a German scholar specializing in the Chinese economy, predicted that the economic growth rate officially announced by the Chinese Communist Party could fall to a level closer to 5%, such as around 4.8%. This is close enough to 5% without losing face, but it is not incredibly accurate. I am now skeptical about the reliability of the official figures. The Chinese government does not issue economic growth forecasts at the beginning of each year. It is about setting targets. Although the government has made great efforts to achieve this target throughout the year, especially in the last quarter, I still doubt the reliability of the official statistics over the past year. Instead of falling, they have increased. Shocking that Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen are in such a severe recession. This is the 4th Ring Road in Beijing at 7 o'clock in the evening. In my memory, I have never seen such smooth traffic flow on the North 4th Ring Road during rush hour. Anyway, except for SARS and the epidemic, I have never seen it since I came to Beijing. Such a big depression is rare. If you tell me the real situation in Shanghai now, you might not believe it. Many big companies are cutting salaries and laying off employees. Many small companies are struggling to survive on the verge of losses and bankruptcy, and many can no longer pay wages. In the past, the mall was packed with people on weekends, and now it's deserted, as if it's about to close. I tell you the current real situation in Shenzhen, which may seem unbelievable. Large companies are constantly laying off employees, small companies are closing down, and the houses are unrented. What is surprising is that Shenzhen's finances are also facing problems. There are 2 major signals. First, many places in Shenzhen have reduced district-level expenditures this year. Second, Shanghai's foreign trade has stalled. In the first 4 months of this year, Shanghai lost its position as the #1 foreign trade city after 9 consecutive years. When 2 super cities send out strange signals, it means that we don't have much room for redundancy. China's economy is in a slump, and the Beijing authorities have finally lost their composure. The Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee held an emergency meeting and stopped promoting the bright prospects of China's economy, rarely admitting that there are problems in the economy. Rich people are fleeing in a low-key manner, and there is a trend of going abroad in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. The life of ordinary people is becoming increasingly difficult, increasingly severe. China's economy faces major challenges. Ming Zhuzheng, professor emeritus of the Department of Political Science at National Taiwan University, recently said on the YouTube program Political and Economic Frontline that in addition to domestic economic problems, China is also facing increasing pressure from the international environment. Among them, the Sino-US trade war has had a huge impact on China's export-oriented economy. Since the outbreak of the trade war in 2018, the United States has imposed tariffs on many types of Chinese products, greatly compressing the market share of Chinese companies overseas. This has not only led to a decline in China's exports, but also prompted some manufacturing companies to transfer production to lower-cost countries such as Vietnam and India, further weakening China's global supply chain position. At the same time, the technological competition between China and the United States has also brought huge challenges to the Chinese economy. The United States has blocked China's access to high-tech products such as advanced semiconductors and communication technologies through a series of restrictive measures. This technological blockade has greatly restricted China's technological progress in areas such as 5G, artificial intelligence, and chip manufacturing, causing related companies to suffer unprecedented pressure and development bottlenecks. Not only the United States, but European countries are also becoming increasingly cautious about China. Although economic ties between the EU and China occupy an important position in the process of globalization, in recent years, Europe has raised more questions about China's policies on market access and technology protection. Chinese companies have entered the global market with a low-price competition strategy, which has brought a great impact on European small and medium-sized enterprises, prompting the EU to increase its scrutiny of Chinese imports and gradually adopt more restrictive measures. In addition, the withdrawal of foreign capital is also a major test facing the Chinese economy. In recent years, more and more multinational companies have chosen to transfer production lines from China to other regions, which has not only weakened China's traditional advantages as the world factory, but also caused China to lose a lot of foreign exchange income and employment opportunities. In particular, a series of laws and regulations involving national security issued by China, such as the counter-espionage law and the data security law, have further triggered a crisis of confidence in the Chinese market environment for foreign-funded enterprises. Although these measures are aimed at strengthening national security protection, they have also caused more doubts from the outside world about the openness of the Chinese economy.